So this is my first online session that I'm doing. Okay, so how do we go about the session? So I have planned for 1 hour, so I would basically go ahead and give you an overview of what cloud is, and what is the different terminology in the virtualization, IaaS, PaaS and SaaS. And we will see a small demo of Azure, where we'll create a VM, and we'll see how it goes, right? And also give you an overview of what is the course content, and how much is the duration, and all that details. Okay, so what we can do is, to make it flow smooth, we will take questions towards the end, because yeah, so it will avoid unnecessary interruptions in the middle. Okay, I will take questions towards the end. I will answer all the questions that you guys have. Okay, okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know if you're able to see. Able to see my, okay, I'm sharing a PDF here. Okay, so before we move on to cloud, so what I wanted to show you was the course content which I have planned. So basically this is for the 7533 exam, that is implementing Azure infrastructure solutions exam of Microsoft. And so right now I'm doing it as a 1 month course, classroom training. I do 1 hour a day at one of the institute here in Hyderabad. So this is what I pretty much teach them. I go through the introduction, I introduce them to the Azure, how it works, and how to do things from PowerShell, how to do from the management portal and all that. And then we look at the storage solutions, what kind of storage solutions you have in Azure. Basically we look at storage accounts, managed disks, backup and recovery. And then we'll go on to the computing solution. We deal with the VMs, virtual machines. And then we talk about the cloud services and web apps. So these two come under the PaaS offerings of Azure, platform as service. Okay, and then I will give you an overview of the networking. How do we create virtual networks, and how do we do point to site and site to site networking, right, in Azure. And then we'll talk about the Azure Active Directory. We'll do a couple of scenarios on the one of the domain services. How do we join a VM to the Azure domain, and how do we make a web application do authentication using Azure. We'll add some users to Azure Active Directory, and we'll authenticate those users with giving access to the web application. We'll create a sample web application and we'll do that. And next is the database services. I'll touch upon these two, Azure SQL and Cosmos DB. So Cosmos DB is a Microsoft NoSQL offering, looks similar to the MongoDB. And we'll talk about Service Bus, which is an integration solution, right? And then finally I'll end the sessions with the introduction to IoT gateways and event hubs, right? So I will do a small demo using my Raspberry Pi. So I have a small project that we can do for demonstrating IoT hub. Okay, okay, so that's about the course content. So I'm expecting this to be done in about 20 hours or maybe a couple of hours more. So I'm planning something like this: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 hours a day, so that will be done in 3 weeks. Okay, yeah, we'll discuss about the timings towards the end, no problem. I'm flexible with the timings, but initially I thought that this will work better, but we can adjust based on how many people will join, and what their flexible timings are. We'll talk about that. So this is flexible, don't worry about this. So course content, it will be done in about 20 to 24 hours. Okay, okay, so now I'm going to move to the demo part of the session. So this is going to okay, so I think everyone who has joined the session might have heard about cloud at one point or the other, right? So I'll just give a brief definition about what cloud is, and because am I audible, guys? Okay, cool, no problem. Okay, so if somebody asked me to define what cloud is, I would define something like this: anything which is on demand, scalable, multi-tenant, and self-service. Compute and storage resources. So earlier this was only compute and storage resources, but we have a lot more today on the cloud. We have networking equipment, we have the IoT solutions, we have anything that you get in on-premise today is available on cloud. So it is not just limited to compute and storage, but the other benefits that I've talked about is on-demand, scalability, multi-tenancy, and self-service. On-demand means the power of availability. That means today if you want a computer, right, you go to a store, you buy the computer, and then you go to an ISP, get the internet connection, and then you set up a room kind of thing. If it's a server, you require UPS, you do all that kind of setup, right, when you planning to set up an office or something. So with cloud you can just create a server within few minutes. All you need is a subscription, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're creating in AWS or Azure or Google. All you can do is just log in with your subscription and create a server within few minutes. So that's the power available to you. So that is the word I'm using for on demand, right? On demand means you get it when you need it, right? Okay, now the next big thing is the scalability. Scalability means the power to grow, right? So today you may start with a simple cloud application which takes about 8 GB of RAM and 2 core processor, but tomorrow your business grows big and you want to upgrade. So with just a button click you can upgrade your server from 8 GB to 20 GB or 50 GB and whatsoever, right? You can go up and up, and the other way is also possible. You can reduce it. That means if your business is not doing good, if you want to scale down the server so that your bill will be less, or whatever that you're paying for will be less, right? So you can scale down or scale up, right? So and the real beauty of this model is you will pay only for what you're using. That means today you used only for 4 GB, you'll pay only for 4 GB, and the next day onwards you increase the capacity to 8 GB, you will pay 8 GB onwards from that day. So it is pay as you go. So Azure is simply, I would say, pay as you go. Not just Azure, but all the players which are out there, AWS or are pretty much operating in the same way, right? Okay, so multi-tenancy I will not explain now, so it will be a kind of gyan. But self-service, this is one big thing why companies are moving to cloud, right? Self-service means you don't have to worry about the hardware problems, or you don't have to worry about the patching activities, you don't have to worry about the updates, you don't have to worry about maintenance of the servers, right? All this capital and other the maintenance aspects you can pretty much forget. That means you are paying for a server, that means you're taking it on a lease. You can assume that Microsoft will safely give you the server 24/7. That means you don't maintain anything, you just pay the bill and you expect the server to run, right? So they guarantee an uptime of 99.9%. Okay. Okay, now I'll skip this slide, I will explain later. So this is an old slide actually. This is the market position right now, but the numbers have changed. For example, Amazon, who is the leader in the market, is right now at around 40 to 45%. Microsoft, which was 9% in 2015, has come to 30%, and that number is even bigger in Asia Pacific. That means in Asia at least, or South Asia, Microsoft Azure offering is actually growing. And the real proof for that is we did not have a single data center 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. We never had a single data center in India. Now we have 3 data centers in India. So you can imagine the amount of investment that Microsoft is doing, because they see a huge potential in India to grow their business. And you can see, if you are following the news in the market, AP government, they signed an MOU with Microsoft for migrating the data center to Azure. And okay, just so Chaitanya, I am recording the session, don't worry. Okay, I'll share the recording with you. Okay, so Yeah, so Microsoft has invested heavily in India for setting up those 3 data centers because they see a huge potential. Even Flipkart has signed an MOU to move their servers to Azure. So many companies are actually looking at the cloud, actually not just Azure, but other companies are also growing, but especially in India I see a lot of potential for Azure, right? Okay, so we'll just spend another 5 minutes on this terminology. This is related to your virtualization, I would say IaaS, PaaS and SaaS, right? So we pretty much hear these terms day in and day out. It's not just related to cloud, but it's related to virtualization. Okay, can you guys see this slide? Okay, great. Now towards the left side of the screen we have on-premises server. That means if I break up my computer into different layers, it would look something like this. We have a networking part, we have a storage, we have a hardware, and we have an operating system, we have runtime or middleware like your Java or PHP or your .NET framework, and finally your application. So all these layers put together becomes your server. Now if you wanted to save cost, you can optimize it in 3 different ways. The first offering that you can get from virtualization is infrastructure as a service, right? In infrastructure as a service, you get the hardware piece of the server from the vendor. That means the networking, storage and the hardware part you can actually share among multiple servers. That means if you buy a classic example I can give you in this case is the VMware, right? If you buy a VMware server product, you can create n number of virtual machines on that server, and each virtual machine can act as its independent server. That means each virtual machine that you're creating can run its own operating system, can have its own application, and can act as an independent server. So basically you're just buying one single hardware piece and you're breaking it apart into multiple virtual machines. So that is in the infrastructure as a service. So what is the responsibility on you in infrastructure as a service? It is the software stack, right from operating system to your application. That means you maintain, or you are responsible for the operating system license, you are responsible for the updates, you are responsible for all the runtime, whatever Java runtime or .NET runtime, whatever that your application requires, you are responsible for that, and finally you are responsible for your application also. So basically you maintain the entire software stack yourself. Okay, yeah. So if you look at platform as a service, in platform as a service you are moving the operating system part also to the vendor. That means your operating system is no longer your responsibility, your runtime is no longer your responsibility. So one example that I can give for platform as a service is Azure Cloud Service or Azure Web App. In this one, when you go and create a web app, you get a computer which has the platform pre-installed. That means it has all the required runtime and the operating system license, so everything comes pre-installed and you only need to install your application. If you have a web application, you need to install that and your website is live, right? So you don't need to worry about whether I need to install Java, whether I need to install .NET. All that is pre-installed, so whatever that you're running, right, it will simply run out of the box because you're paying for the entire software stack also. So you don't have to maintain your hardware or you don't have to maintain your software part, you just need to take care of your application, right? So we will look at 2 such platform as service offerings in Azure, right? So cloud service is one, and Azure Web App or Azure App Service is one more. So these 2 offerings we will see as part of the course, right? Yeah. Okay, now the last one that you see on the right side is software as a service. So this one is pretty much we are using as customers day in and day out. That means when you go to Google Drive, that is software as a service, you are using a software, storage software as a service over the internet. Or for example, Office 365. Earlier days when we require office software, we used to buy the CD from the shop, or we used to download from internet, and we used to install on the computer. So that software will work only on that computer. If you want to access that remotely, that was never possible, right? Now Office 365 gives you the power of accessing remotely. That means wherever you have internet, you can simply log on to office365.com with your subscription, that means name and password, and then you can create Word documents, PPTs, or any type of documents, office documents, and you can save it on cloud, and you can work it. That means you can access your office software over the cloud. So that's the offering from Microsoft. Similarly, there are other solutions from other providers. So basically, in software as service, you don't have to install anything as a customer. That means you simply sign up for a subscription and use your login ID and password. So Azure portal is something that I told you, right? So it is like a software as a service. That means it's a big enterprise software which is running in the Azure data center, and you are simply opening the browser and you are creating your equipment using that software. So that is one more example of software as service. So you can take n number of examples from the internet, right? Amazon.com or Flipkart.com. All these are big enterprise applications, and you are simply going to browser and you're simply putting Flipkart.com or Amazon.com using your login ID password, and you're buying stuff, right? It's a big enterprise application, but you're simply accessing from your browser, right, without having to install anything as a prerequisite, right? Okay, so I'm going to move on now to the actual demo part of Azure. Okay, so what do you require to get started on Azure, right? So you require a subscription. Okay, so as a learner, what you can do is you can sign up for Azure free trial. So what you can do is go to Google and just type Azure free trial. You will get a link. Just sign up using an email ID password, and you would require a credit card for signing up for the subscription, but there is no charge on the credit card. It is simply for security purpose, just to to prevent people from creating n number of accounts, right? If there was no credit card involved, people would have created tons of email IDs, and they would have created n number of trial accounts, right? So to prevent that from happening, what Microsoft did is they put that credit card activity in place. So they will simply not charge anything. I mean, when you sign up for the free trial, they ask for the credit card. There is no charge, and what you get is you get 30 days of subscription. That means you can try creating Azure resources for 30 days, right? You can sign up for the free trial and you get 30 days subscription. So that is good enough for learning this course, right? So whatever that I'm going to cover, your free trial would suffice, right? And other than subscription, you don't require anything else, right? You don't need to install anything else on the computer. So just the subscription you need to sign up. Okay, so I'm going to give you the link and everything, so that you can follow the link and you can sign up for the free trial. So that is one thing that you guys need to do before we start the actual sessions. Okay, now what else you require? You require a computer which can connect to internet. No special hardware is required. Okay, and as part of the course, at some point of time, we practice some PowerShell commands. So I would recommend you to use Windows 7 or above OS, so that we have PowerShell pre-installed on that, right? So yeah, so Windows 7 and above, and any computer with an internet connection is required. That's it. You don't require any special hardware or any other software to run Azure. Okay, because everything is over the browser. Okay, so now can you see my screen, guys? Okay, do you see the Azure portal? I've opened the Azure portal. You can? Okay, Yeah, so I told you about signing about for a subscription, right? So what you need to do is, once you sign up for subscription, you need to go to the website called portal.azure.com. so this is called the management portal of Azure. Okay, I sent you the link in the chat. So this is the management portal of Azure, or rather this is our playground. This is the link that we use for creating resources, accessing the resources and all that. So this is the management portal, and to log into this portal you require the subscription. So first you need to sign up for the subscription, and then you can log into this. Okay, and on the left hand side you see dashboard, all resources. You see these options, right? This is called as the marketplace, right? This is called as the marketplace. That means you can go to any of the link and create the resources that you want. For example, if I go to compute option, I will see different operating system images available to me, so that I can create a VM using those images. So by default you see 2016 data center OS, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, Ubuntu and all that, right? If you click on see all, you will see more image options. If you see here, you see lot of options. You see lot of options for taking the images. That means all the images that you see are the software applications that come with the image, and all of them are not licensed. So for example, if you want to create a VM with the Dynamics AX 2012, right, you can select the image which I am highlighting on the screen, but it doesn't come with the Dynamics license. So though you get it on the VM, you need to apply your own license, right? Same thing goes with the SQL Server also. So you get a SQL Server pre-installed, but you need a license to run it. SharePoint as well. So all these are prepared by Microsoft and given to you. And if you want to upload your own image, let's say you are a company, right, and you have a standard image with which you want to create servers. So what you can do is, you can take one machine, right, install all the required software, take a dump of the image in the VHD format, upload that to Azure storage account, and you can create n number of VMs from that. That means you are using your own image, right? That scenario is also possible. We'll look at that when we are seeing the VMs module, right? When we are looking at the VMs module, we'll see that. Okay. So I'll just click on Windows Server. You can see all the different flavors of Windows Server operating system, 2012, 2008 R2. You have all of that. So you can click on any one of them and just say create. Okay, now in this screen it asks you to enter a name for the computer. You can enter any name. So this is like your computer name or the server name. You can give one name to it, and it also asks you to enter a user ID and password. So this will be the local Windows user account. That means whatever that you are entering, it will create a local admin account on the VM that you are creating. So after logging into the VM, you can create more accounts by going to control panel. It's same like your Windows computer. You go to add remove accounts, and you can create more accounts, local accounts. Okay, so resource group I'll explain later. And location, this is more important. Location is the data center where you want to deploy this VM. So Azure has data centers right from Australia to US, right? You can select anything that you want. So for example, I said India has 3 data centers, right? Central India, which is referring to Pune, and South India, which is in Chennai, West India, which is in Mumbai. So you have 3 data centers in India. One more is in proposal, that is coming up shortly. That would be in Kolkata, or yeah, I think it is in Kolkata, but it is not yet announced. But yeah, shortly there will be one more data center. So right now you have 3 active data centers in India. Okay, so you can click any one. I mean, it is not necessary that you are coming from India, you have to create only in India. It is not necessary. You can create the VM in US data center as well. So one thing you need to remember is, you always create the VM where your customers are. That means if you are planning to launch a company and your customers are in India, so you better create that server in India data center, because obviously it will be faster for customers in India, right? So keep that in mind, and you create the server or the VM. Okay, now you see this option, save money, save up to 40% with the license you already own, right? So if you say yes here, what happens is the VM which it is creating, right, the OS will not be activated by default. That means Microsoft will not activate that OS image. So after logging into the VM, you need to apply your own license. What is the benefit from it is you save the money. That means if you already have a server license with you, that means you already have a company and you already bought volume license from Microsoft, then you don't have to buy the license again here, right? You pay more when you say you want to get the license again from Microsoft. But if you are a startup company, you don't have anything, you want to get everything from Microsoft, you can say no there, and the OS is activated out of the box. Okay, in the second step, you see the hardware templates. I mean, what kind of hardware you require for your VM, right? Are you able to see the screen? Okay, so you click on view all, you see lot of templates, right? You can see there are many combinations. For example, this one which I am highlighting, it is 4 CPUs and 14 GB RAM, right? Something like that. So based on your requirement, you can go to up to 112 GB. So when you see something like not available, right, you see these are grayed out. That means this particular VM size is not available in the region that you selected, because I selected Southeast Asia, right, Singapore, so this 112 GB VM is not available in Singapore. So if you see something not available, then you need to understand that this template is not offered in that particular data center. So if anyone has worked on VMware before, what VMware gives us the flexibility is you can modify only the CPU, you can modify only the RAM, you can add network cards. So you have the flexibility of changing individual parameters, right? But that flexibility is not there in Azure as of now. That means whatever template that they are offering, you have to go with that template. That means let's say this first template says 2 CPUs and 8 GB, right? So if I want 4 CPUs and 8 GB, if that template is not available, I cannot change it. That means I have to go with what is being offered here. And another example is if I want 2 network cards on this machine, the machine with 2 CPUs and 8 GB, I want additional network card. That is not possible. So additional network card is offered in a bigger VM category. So I think D3 series VMs. So you understand the limitation, right? So you cannot individually customize the hardware configuration. That means you cannot say that I want 1 CPU and 4 GB and 2 network cards. That is not possible. Okay, so the amount that you see there, right, under the each template, that is for running that VM 24/7 for 1 month. So that is 1 month usage cost. So it's loading, just a minute. Yeah, so the VM which I highlighted is 7,474 rupees, Indian rupees, for 1 month. So if you run this server with this configuration for 1 month, this will be your bill, right? 24/7 and 3 for 1 month, that will be your bill. Okay, the next step is where do you want to create the server. So we have a concept of virtual network. So we will start the class, that means the sessions after the demo, right? We will start with virtual network. So I will explain this virtual network, subnet, and all this in that class. So public IP address. Public IP address is required when you want to connect to your server from anywhere on the world. That means you are asking remote access to your server, right? So public IP address is optional. It is required only when you want to connect from over the internet, right? And the option below that is called NSG, that means firewall. So this is a network firewall. This is not the Windows firewall, this is outside the VM. So since your VM is on the cloud, there are many hackers and people who can break into your computer and make it simply inaccessible to your customers. So to prevent that, what you can do is you can configure this firewall with rules which you require. That means you can make that allow only HTTPS port for my VM. You can configure a rule, you can do an inbound outbound rule similar to your Windows firewall, and only people who are hitting with that port number will be allowed to access the VM. That means this is an extra layer of protection outside the VM. So you have your Windows firewall inside the VM, and you have this network security group protecting the VM itself. So if you say none, the firewall will not be provisioned to you, right? So it all depends on you whether you want to use it. You can mention it with the required number of rules, and you have a firewall to protect your VM. Okay, so one more important thing here is storage. Where is that you want to store your data? So we have two options. One is managed disk, which I'll explain in the class, in the storage class, and another one is storage account. So storage account is like a locker for keeping all your data. You can keep your VM related VHDs, you can keep your general purpose file storages, you can keep all that data in one single storage account, right? So storage account is actually a 3-day class actually, or rather or 4 or 6 hour class. So I will talk about storage account in detail, but why it is required in the VM context is because your VM runs on a VHD. We need to keep that VHD somewhere, right, to run on the cloud, right? And I told you about you can run your own custom images, right? Where do you keep those custom images? We need a storage place, right? That is the storage account. You create a storage account, keep all your VHDs, and you create your VMs. So whenever you save something on the VM, it goes to that VHD, right? Okay. So two basic things are required for creating a VM. One is a virtual network, other one is a storage. Okay, so this is a summary page which tells you what is that you have selected. Okay, simply say purchase. So what you have just done is you chosen a hardware template. I require this amount of CPU, this amount of RAM, and then you said I want the OS to be activated, and finally you said I need to create the VHD on a storage account, and then you said deploy. So now the VM is getting deployed. So if you click on this notification option, you will see deployment is in progress, right? So it takes about 5 minutes for the deployment to be complete. Now in this state you can actually close the browser, you can log off, you can do anything. I mean, it is not going to stop the deployment because you close the browser. So now you initiated the deployment, so it sent a command to the Azure server that go ahead and create a VM with the configuration that you selected, right? So this is not going to impact the deployment. I mean, if you close the browser, if you shut down the computer, nothing going to happen to the deployment. So after you come back, you will see that the deployment has finished. Okay, so it is going to take about 5 minutes, so I can take any questions that you might have so far. You guys have any questions, you can ask me now, because it's going to take time. Now it's 5 minutes. Anything that you did not understand, or anything that you feel that I need to explain again, I will be happy to do so. Just let me know. Okay, I quickly want to mention a couple of things. So, material, right? So, what I normally do is, even in my classroom sessions, I share them the resources that I created for the classroom trainings. So, I created slides for each type of resource. I share the access to this Google Drive location so that they can download and they can refer to this material. So many of them are actually detailed. So if, for example, if you go to this particular document about virtual machine, I will show them how to create a virtual machine step by step, and how to do it through PowerShell, right? So different ways of doing things. So I documented everything in this Google Drive. So I will share you the access so that you can refer them when you want to practice later. So this is the folder where I keep all the slides and documents. You can refer them, and there are some recordings which I did for my earlier sessions, so you can access the recordings here. So I'll keep posting more. Right now I have for storage, for I have for networking, I have for virtual machines. I will post more recordings shortly, so you can access the recordings also. If you have any doubts, you can access it. And if any of you requires any Azure tools, right, you can download from here. I will let you know which tool can be used where, so you can access them from my Google Drive. So I will give you access to this Google Drive. Other than this, you can refer to Microsoft documentation if you want more information about something, right? So if you go to in the same Google Drive, you go to the Microsoft documentation folder, you have one PDF for each type of resource, right? So this is very good documentation. You don't need to buy any other book for Azure. You can simply refer to the Microsoft documentation if you want in-depth detail. For example, I will show you how to create a storage account through the portal, and I'll show you how to create a storage account through the PowerShell. But if you want to create a storage account from Linux environment, right, are not a Windows user, you are a Linux user, or if you are a Java developer, how do you want to access the storage account, right? So Azure has support for all the popular platforms. It is not that Azure is only for Windows environment or Azure is only for .NET developers, right? It is for everyone. You can access Azure from your Linux bash shell also. So what you need to do is you need to install something called as a command line installer, right? CLI. So after you install it, you can create resources from Linux bash shell. So there is a command for each type of resource. For example, if you want to create a storage account, there is one command. For you want to upload a file, there is one command, right? So for you want to create a VM, there is a command, right? Set of commands. So like that, we have a way to work with the Linux also. So that information you can find it in the Microsoft documentation, right? Okay, so I hope the VM is ready. Yeah, so you can see deployment succeeded here, and you can see a list of things here. And if I go to my virtual machines button, I will see the server which I created, server 1. I click on it, and this is my server, and it is started already, and it has a public IP address. So why would I require a public IP address is because I am outside Azure environment, right? My laptop is outside Azure environment and I want to connect to this server, so I require a public IP address. So what I'll do, I'll simply copy this public IP address and I'll go to my remote desktop on my computer. I'll go to remote desktop. I will simply put that public IP address and press enter. Right now it asks for user ID password. Enter the user ID that you created while creating the VM, right? You entered a user ID and password, right? You need to use that credentials here. You able to see the screen, right? Okay, so this is the VM we asked for. So it is logging in still. So it is a blank retail OS image from Microsoft, right? Now it is up to you what is that you want to do with this VM. You can make it a web server, you can make it an application server, you can make it a file server, anything normal. It is a normal Windows server for you, right? A regular Windows server. So what I will do, I will go to the server manager and I am enabling the IIS. So that means I am making it as a web server. For example, I say install and I am making this as a web server. Yeah, there are couple of things which you cannot do on Azure. Is if you go to you're familiar with this window, right? Server manager. Every one of you familiar with this window? Yeah. So in this you have different roles for the server. You can make it a DHCP server, DNS server and all that, right? But in Azure you cannot do few of the things. You cannot have a DHCP server, you cannot have a Hyper-V server. These two things you cannot have. That means why? Because the Hyper-V, the VM that you are running here itself was in a Hyper-V. So Hyper-V within a Hyper-V is not allowed. So that's why they block Hyper-V type of role. And also DHCP. So the job of DHCP is done by the virtual network. So the DHCP role is also not allowed. Other than that, you can do any other role. You can do a domain controller also, you can do a SharePoint server, you can do anything. Okay, so I enabled IIS. Now simply I take the public IP address and I put it in my browser. Since it is on the Microsoft cloud, I am immediately able to access the website or web server whatever I created. Now if I want to give a DNS name, right, to this one, what I need to do is I will simply go to my IP address, public IP option. I go there and Azure gives you a free DNS name. You can use that, my server 1, you can say that, and your fully qualified name, that means somebody has taken it, so let me give my server 199, or I can give my Flipkart server or something. Let me say that. Okay, so now your fully qualified name is my Flipkart server 1 dot southeastasia.cloudapp.azure.com. so this is a free name for you. What you can do is, if you have purchased a custom domain, let's say you bought a custom domain from GoDaddy, you can create a DNS record in GoDaddy to point to this particular name. So you can either use an IP address or you can use the DNS name. Now let me use the DNS name. So I simply say my Flipkart server 1 Southeast Asia cloudapp.azure.com. so my server is coming up, right? So you can do either this way or that way. Okay, so if you have a custom domain, you can create a DNS record so that your customer need not remember this big URL. He can simply remember flipkart.com. so just create a DNS record. I will show you that when I am doing the AD session, Active Directory. Okay, so let me go back to my server which I created, and we'll see how many disks are there, right? So you see there are two disks, one is a C drive and other one is a temporary storage D drive. So the temporary storage D drive, it is, the size is 7 GB, right? So this changes with the type of template you selected. With a different template, right, with a different hardware template, the size of the temporary disk can be big. But as the name says temporary, right, the data which you store on this one is lost if you shut down the VM or if you restart the VM. So basically it is like RAM disk. The disk that you see here, 7 GB one, this is a RAM disk, right? So it is recommended that you don't store anything on the D drive. You can simply use it as a virtual drive or your memory drive or your keeping your memory pages for RAM disk, right? C drive is the VHD. That means whatever data that you store on C drive will be persisted to the VHD. That means if you shut down the VM also, the state is maintained. That means if you come back again another day, your files are still there, you will not be losing data. But there could be a scenario where you don't want to store data on the C drive, right? You want another additional data disk, right? So Azure gives you option to add data disks. How do you do that? You go back to your VM in the portal, and here you have an option called disks. Go there and say add data disk. So you can add a data disk up to 1 terabyte. So that's the limitation as of now. You can give a name called data and just say create. So now this is a dynamic disk, so you don't have to restart your VM to detect this disk. So it will be created on the fly. So while your VM is running, this disk can be formatted and mounted because it's a dynamic disk. So what you need to do for that is you need to open up the disk management console on your VM, on your server, right? So I open up the disk management and it is not there yet. Okay, I need to save it. Okay, so there could be one more question, that how many such disks I can add, right? How many such disks I can add? So that is also limited with the template. That means if you go back to your hardware template, in this you see this option, right? After your RAM it says 4 data disks, 2 data disks, 8 data disks, right? So that limits the number of data disks that you can add on the machine. For example, if I select the first template, right, with 1 CPU and 3.5 GB, I will be able to add 2 data disks. That means each of capacity 1 terabyte, so I can add up to 2 terabyte on that VM. If I go with the next bigger one, that is the 7 GB template, I can create 4 data disks. So that is the number of data disks that you can add is limited with your hardware template. Okay, so I think the disk is saved already. Let me go back to the server. Now you can see, right, a 1 terabyte disk is there. You just need to format it. So this is just like formatting your regular hard drive. Go to disk management and say format, and your disk will be mounted. So you can see the new disk is mounted. So whatever information that you are storing in this one is safe. That means it is saved on the disk that you have created. Okay, so yeah, that's one more thing. Okay, and so any questions, guys, before I move on? Mm-hmm. Okay, subscription is an account, and all that you're creating is part of the account. So it is like subscription is like taking a postpaid connection, and whatever calls that you're making or whatever data that you're using, everything is getting charged on that the subscription. So when you take a subscription, okay, cost comes in when you are using the resources. For example, when you create a storage account, right, the storage account, the cost is calculated based on how much of data you are storing per MB per day. So if you want to know the cost of the resources, there is a URL called pricing calculator for Azure, this is a Microsoft pricing calculator. You go to the respective resource, whichever resource that you want to know what the cost is. Let's say you want to find out how much the storage will cost me. So this will give you an estimate. Let's say I want to create a storage account to keep my files, right? So capacity, yes, correct. So you can say 1 TB, and it is block type of storage. Okay, so sorry, see, this estimated monthly cost is $135 for storing 1 TB for 1 month. So this is prorated per day. Let's say you stored 1 TB only for 1 day, but after that you deleted the file, or the file came down to 100 MB. So you will be charged for 1 TB only for that 1 day, and for the next day you will be charged for 100 MB. So it is for only what you store on that. It is not that you created a 1 TB disk, you are not storing data on that, you will not be charged. Making sense? Yeah. Same thing goes with VM also. You are going with the VM, right? You go to the VM, you select the region where you want to create. Let's say South India, where is it? Here. Okay, select the operating system, and here you select the template, which one you want to go with. Let's say I want to go with 20 GB server, right? So one machine for, let's say, 24 hours, I want to know how much it costs. So it costs you $3 for running this configuration. 3.5 GB 1 core processor for 24 hours, it costs you $3. And this is hourly calculation. That means if you run this VM only for 1 hour, this $3 will be divided by the prorated calculation. That means by 24 they will do, and they will calculate only for 1 hour. For example, if I created a VM just now, right, for the demo, and after the demo if I delete the VM, I will be charged only 10 rupees, because I created a VM only for 1 hour, right? So they will charge me only for that 1 hour. So charge is purely prorated based on how much you're using and how long you're using. Similarly, the cost is calculated for every resource based on for example, virtual network. You have created a set of servers on a network. So the cost of network is calculated based on the bandwidth, how much information is flowing in, how much information is flowing out. Based on that, the cost is calculated. And other stuff like the app service and all. So everywhere it is the pay as you go model. How much you're using, how long you're using. Pay as you use or pay as you go. Yes, correct. Pay as you use. Okay. Okay, now let me come back to the VM discussion. Okay, so I just have couple of things here before I wrap up. So other than this, you have options to configure auto shutdown. You want to save some money because you are not using the server in the night. You can configure to shut it down automatically, so that you will save some money. So the money saved for the VM is only for the compute cost. That means if you shut down the VM for 12 hours, you will not be charged for the 12 hours. Okay, so in a scenario where you don't require the server in the night time, you can configure auto shutdown, and you can save some money, right? Or you can use the Windows task scheduler also to shut down the VM and something. You need not use the Azure portal, but this also they gave an option to configure it, right? And there are couple of important things that are available here. For example, you created a VM but you forgot the admin password, right? The test user account we created, right? But you forgot the password. You come back to the portal, go to the reset password option, you can give a new password, it will change the password, right? So if you forget password, in some cases you are not able to access the VM, come back and change the password. That's one thing. And sometimes what happens is during the weekends, when there are data center maintenance and all that on Azure side, some of the VMs may not connect after the maintenance. For example, there was a Hyper-V upgrade on the data center side for Microsoft, and Monday morning you come and see that your servers are not booting. The first thing that you do is you come to the management portal, you check the status, you go to overview blade and you see that the server is started. You ping it, you log in, try to log in or RDP with the public IP, nothing works. So when you, before you contact Microsoft support, you can do this option. There is an option called redeploy. So if you simply say redeploy, what happens is it will destroy the host on the server and it will create it on a new server. That means, let's say if the VM was running on rack 1 server 1 and after the maintenance it is not booting, if you say redeploy, the VM will be moved to server 2 or maybe server 10 physically in the data center. So if there is a runtime configuration problem, then these things will be resolved if you say redeploy. So before you contact Microsoft support, you can try this redeploy option. So you will not lose your data, don't worry about that. You will simply restart the VM. It will simply recreate the host and restart the VM. So the data which was already there on the C drive or F drive, your permanent disk, the data will be there. It is not going to go anywhere, right? Okay. And one more thing is alert rules. This is also an important option in the monitoring point of view, because since your VM is running on Microsoft Cloud, you don't know what is happening, how much of CPU is eating up by whatever activity. So you can add an alert. You go to metric alert, you can add an alert for the standard types. That means percentage CPU, network in-out activity, right, disk read-write activity. So you can configure, let's say, percentage CPU greater than 80% for last 1 hour. That means you're creating an alert here. If this server runs 80% CPU overall utilization for 1 hour, then it will send an alert to you. So just put the email addresses of people here separated by semicolon, they will all get the emails. Or you simply put a checkbox here, whoever is part of the subscription, right, they will get the emails. In your company subscription, there could be multiple people in one subscription. So all the people will get an email that so and so server is running at high CPU for X number of hours or for last 1 hour or whatever the rule that you're creating here. If you say 15 minutes, it will send an alert that if the CPU runs high for 15 minutes, it will send an email for that. Or there is an option to put a webhook. Webhook like your remedy admin remedy URL, right? You can raise an auto TT. You simply put the URL of your remedy admin here, and then this particular option will create a automatic TT so that your support teams gets notified about it, right? So you can create n number of alerts for your VM. Okay. And there is one more important thing, access control. So this one talks about who all need to see this or who all need to access this server from the management point of view. That means in your company there could be only one subscription, and it could have production servers, dev servers, test servers, everything in one subscription. So if everyone has access to everything, then it will be a problem, right? So what you can do is, in that scenario, go to the production server, this access control option, and on the right side have only people who need to access the server or who need to modify or whatever it is. So you can do this role based access control in the new management portal. Why I'm saying new management portal is because 5 years ago when we started, Azure used to look something like this. So we used to access this URL called manage.windowsazure.com. that used to be our management portal. That means we used to come here for creating VMs, storage accounts and everything. So in this portal there is no option to do role based access control. right? So everyone has access to pretty much everything. So if somebody is part of the subscription, then he can see everything which is created in that subscription, right? But this portal is going to be retired very soon, so you don't have to worry about working in this portal. So this is the portal that we need to worry about. This is called as Azure Management Portal or Resource Manager Portal. Okay, and this access control is not just for servers, it is for any type of resource, whether it's a storage account or whether it's a server or a database server, or anything that you take in Azure, you have this access control blade. You can go there and have people who require access. You can remove people who don't require access. For example, in my subscription I am the only one, but in your company subscription there could be multiple people. So what you can do is, if you don't want somebody to have access to that server, you can simply go to access control and get them removed from there. Or if you want only a group of people, let's say dev group or L4 group, to have access, you can add them so that only they will have access, no one else will have access, right? But normally in enterprises what they do is, they will have different subscriptions for different requirement. That means if they want to create production servers, they do it in a separate subscription. If they want to do dev servers, they have it in a separate subscription, so that everything is isolated. But in your small company you may not have multiple subscriptions, you may have only one subscription. In that case, how do you exercise access control is through this option. You can control the access. Okay, I will talk about these options more when I am dealing with resource manager in the course that comes in day 2 or day 3. So I will talk about resource manager and I'll explain this in more detail. We have couple of more benefits also. I will talk about that. Okay, and one more important thing you need to remember is, once you create your VM, you cannot move it to a different region. That means, let's say you created a VM in South India, you want to move it to, let's say, US. You cannot do that. You have to recreate the VM. So you need to be careful about, when you're creating a VM, you must select the location based on your requirement. That means if you are developing a website for US market, select the VM location as West US or East US or Central US, depending on the customer requirement. But moving the same VM later point of time is not possible. There are other ways to deal with it, but you cannot simply move it. You can move VM to another subscription, but the location will not change. Let's say you want to move the VM from dev subscription to production subscription. You can move that you can do, but the location of the VM will still be Southeast Asia or whatever the original location that you've given, that will be same. So you have to be careful about the location when you're creating, not just for VM but for any resource in Azure. You cannot change the location. Once it is created in one data center, it cannot be moved to another data center. Okay, that's one thing. And okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, sorry guys, I'm back. Okay, so yeah, so that's pretty much for the demo actually. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, or yeah, I will take questions now. Yeah. Yes, correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, sure. Mm-hmm. Okay, sure, no problem. I'll share the details with you. Um, Cost, I have not decided yet. I will let you know by end of day. I will send an email to you. Cost, I don't have a problem, because I'm doing this for the first time. I'm little flexible on that. Don't worry there. I will let you know the cost by end of day today. So, and about the timing also, if you are only 3 people or 4 people, we all go with the majority. I mean, let's say if somebody, or most of them, if they say 7 to 9, or 8 to 10 evening, we'll go with that, right? It all depends on the majority. I mean, if most of them are comfortable, then we'll go with them. It is not completely my convenience, but it also your convenience also. I will take into that consideration. But what I would advise is, we would better spend at least 3 classes in 1 week. Daily touch point may not be possible, because I have meetings every alternate day. On Tuesday, on Thursday evenings I will be very busy, because I have client calls and everything. So that is one reason why I'm not having Monday to Friday continuous classes. So that's why I'm proposing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we can have one class on Sunday if you guys want to, or if you think that 3 days a week is fine, we'll continue with this. No problem. I mean, we can discuss on this one. I'll have this open. Yeah. Yes, no problem. Sure. Please do. No problem. We will start the classes from Wednesday, not tomorrow. I will give you 1 day time. Tomorrow you can decide completely, and then you can sign up for the free trial and everything. I'll give you the link, so that Tuesday you guys can do all that, and from Wednesday onwards we will start the class. So before Wednesday evening we will decide upon what timings we are going to meet, and we'll stick to those timings. Okay, that is one thing. So from my side, I will give you assurance that I will get you completed this in 3 weeks. If we spending 6 hours in a week, 3 weeks is good enough for us to complete. Okay. And practice, I'm completely banking on you, because you have to practice whatever I'm showing on the screen. It simply works for me, because I have done it n number of times. I know where which option is. But for you guys, if you're new to Azure, right, you need to practice it hands on. Whatever I am sharing with you every day, please do practice. And any doubts, reach out to me. I'll create a WhatsApp group, we'll discuss there. If you have any problems, just message me and we will connect, no problem. Okay. And you can call me also on my mobile. If you have any issue with practice, I will let you know. I'll help you out. Don't worry about that. But from your side, you have to commit that you will practice, else you will simply forget after the course. Yeah, the concepts may be good. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead. Definitely, yeah. mm. Yeah, and if you are planning to take the exam, right, 7533, I've already cleared the exam, and I have a couple of dumps which are very helpful. There are around 100 plus questions in each dump. So we will spend about couple of hours towards the end of the course on the dump. Actually, I will explain you how the questions will be in the exam, and how you need to take the exam, right? So there are couple of students in my previous batches who have cleared the exam. So that's a positive thing actually. So the type of questions which I have in that sample papers are actually very good, and close to what Microsoft is right now doing it in their exams. So if you are planning to take the exam, you need to put little more effort. You have to look at different use cases. You have to complete the sample questions which I shared in the two dumps. So please do that, and I'll guide you in every way possible. So yeah, the exam doesn't cost much, but yeah, if you clear it, you will get some edge in the market. This is becoming very popular now, right? Okay. Anything else that you want to ask? Fees thing, I will share it by evening, don't worry about that. And timings, uh, you can check in your office and let me know if you don't if you are not fine with 7 to 9 in the evening. We can change the timing a little bit here and there. But even I go to office, right? So morning to evening I will be busy as well. So yeah, that is a little. So I'm sure you're okay with the evening timings. Sure, sure. Okay. E- okay, so uh-huh. Okay, so what I will request everyone is just drop me an email, maybe you by evening or maybe tomorrow also, no problem. Just drop me an email with your preferred timing, right? We'll see how close everyone is and we'll try to fit in somewhere in between. Okay. Okay, so this is my email ID. If you don't have it, just send me an email with your preferred timing and we'll take it from there. Okay, I'll create a WhatsApp group. I hope everyone sent their phone numbers, right? If you have not, just drop the phone number. I will create a WhatsApp group and we can discuss in the WhatsApp group also, no problem. Okay. Okay, so fees thing I will share it, no problem. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just give me your email address and I'll add you there. That's it. It's just a shared access. Yeah, if you want, I can give you access right away. Just let me know your email address in the chat window. I'll add you there. No problem. Okay. Yeah. Any other question on the demo, the VM or whatever that we discussed so far? Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, I hope to keep this very interactive because if you are not asking questions, you're understanding everything or not following anything. It could be either one. So please try to open up. I mean, there is no such thing as a silly question because we are all in the learning mode. So please shoot any kind of question that you have. Right? If explanation takes a long time, I will take it offline, or if it is a short answer, I will right away answer it. Right? So there is no such thing as a silly question. Don't worry, I will not I will entertain all the questions. Okay. Okay, any other questions? So I will share the free trial link to you. Please make sure you sign up before you come to the course, because we would start practicing from day one, right? So whatever that we are doing, because we'll fall back. If you don't practice even for one day, you will fall back and everything will accumulate. Okay, and I'm going to record these sessions whatever that we're doing, and I'll post it in the Google Drive somewhere so that you can go through. If you are not clear, I mean, at some point of time, if you didn't pay attention, if you want to hear again, you can look at the recording. Okay. Okay. Okay, so yeah, it was very nice talking to you. Any other questions? Okay, how is the weather in Bangalore? Typical Bangalore weather. Hyderabad is having insane rains actually. I don't know what is going on, but other parts of the state has no single drop of rain, but Hyderabad is pouring like crazy. Yes, yes, there is flooding everywhere, man. Yeah, there is flooding everywhere. It's like the clouds are falling on Azure. Sorry, Hyderabad. Yeah. Okay. Okay, yaar. Chalo. If you don't have any questions, we'll wrap up. I'll let you enjoy your Sunday, and I have your phone number, so I'll create a WhatsApp group and we'll talk more there. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for your time, guys. I'll talk to you. Okay. Thank you. Bye.